Okay, let's dive straight into this. We are looking at the dark world of megachurches. Is faith being weaponized to build unimaginable tax-free wealth? Yeah, it's a heavy question, but it's exactly what we're tackling today. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down the meticulously researched findings from James Janney's massive investigative documentary, The Dark World of Megachurches. We're going to look objectively at the mechanics, the money, and the deeply debated controversies surrounding some of the largest religious empires on Earth. We want to know exactly how they operate and why they draw such intense scrutiny. Section 1. Into the Rabbit Hole. James Janney's original deep dive absolutely exploded online, racking up nearly 15 million views. But you know what's truly fascinating? This entire sweeping investigation was actually triggered by one single, highly uncomfortable media moment.
That catalyst was a now infamous Inside Edition interview. Reporter Lisa Guerrero confronted televangelist Kenneth Copeland in broad daylight about his massive wealth and his repeated use of luxury private jets. And let me tell you, the footage of that interview is an absolute masterclass in tension. When pressed on his lifestyle, Copeland's reactions were incredibly erratic. He flashed this unsettling, wide-eyed smile, pointed his fingers aggressively, and even dismissively called the reporter sweetheart. He notoriously defended flying private by claiming commercial airlines were basically a tube full of demons. That bizarre, highly defensive reaction didn't just make headlines, it made researchers like Janney stop and ask, wait a minute, if this is the level of hostility they'll show a reporter on camera, what exactly is happening behind closed doors? How does a church organization generate the kind of astronomical revenue required to sustain a lifestyle of multiple private jets in the first place?
Section 2. The Prosperity Gospel. To answer that massive revenue question, we really have to understand the underlying theology powering this entire machine. The core financial engine of these specific megachurches relies on something called the Prosperity Gospel. Now, this isn't your traditional Sunday sermon. This doctrine essentially states that God wants you to be physically healthy and, crucially, financially rich. And here is the critical catch that makes the whole system tick. To activate this divine wealth, you have to prove your faith by giving the church financial donations. They call this seed money. The documentary notes how this theology effectively blends traditional Christian faith with New Age law of attraction concepts. It teaches that your words create reality and your donations literally unlock heaven's vault. The pastors assure their followers that if you sow a financial seed of, say, $100, God is obligated to return it tenfold. It creates this highly effective continuous revenue loop, right? The more money you give to the church, the more financial blessings you're promised in return.
Section 3. Funding lavish lifestyles. This brings us from the theology itself straight into the physical reality of what all that seed money actually builds.
The documentary spotlights a few key figures sitting at the absolute pinnacle of this industry. We're talking about men like Kenneth Copeland, Jesse Duplantis, and Joel Osteen. And the investigation makes it abundantly clear that these individuals operate less like humble pastors and way more like multi-millionaire executives of vast corporate empires. For example, Kenneth Copeland is reported to have a net worth easily exceeding $700 million, complete with his very own airport right on his massive estate. The documentary also highlights Jesse Duplantis, who openly asked his congregation to fund a brand new $54 million Falcon 7X private jet. And how do they justify it? Well, these leaders aggressively defend their massive estates and luxury travel as simply being the visible blessings of the very prosperity gospel they preach.
So the crucial point here is the staggering, almost unbelievable contrast between the rhetoric of spiritual salvation and the reality of private jets, massive mansions, and untaxed wealth. As the investigation outlines, these leaders are living a lifestyle that is completely disconnected from the everyday, working-class followers who are actually funding it. You've got people mailing in their final $50, sowing their seed money in a desperate hope for a miracle to pay their rent, save their business, or cure chronic illness. Meanwhile, the recipients of those donations are flying comfortably at 40,000 feet.
To truly grasp the sheer scale of this enterprise, you just have to look at events like Joel Osteen's Carmel book signing. This is definitely not a quiet, contemplative gathering in a local community chapel. No, this is stadium-level, rock concert-scale merchandising. You see thousands of people lined up, vibrant displays, and literal mountains of merchandise changing hands. The sheer volume of books, DVDs, and branded materials sold at these mega events proves that we aren't just looking at places of worship anymore. We're looking at highly optimized, perfectly calibrated corporate brands designed for maximum consumer extraction.
Section 4. The illusion of miracles. So, the investigation goes even deeper into what is arguably the most controversial territory of all, the stage performances of physical healings.
This brilliantly illustrates the central conflict, pitting the spectacular against the skeptical.
On one side, you have figures like Billy Burke and Todd White. They make these incredible supernatural claims of healing people right on stage, supposedly curing ailments and diseases in real time in front of screaming crowds. But on the other side, the documentary brings in the skeptics. It utilizes the logical breakdowns of professional illusionists like Darren Brown, alongside vocal critics like Justin Peters, and they break down exactly how these miracles are performed. For instance, they expose the infamous leg lengthening trick, to make it appear as though a shorter leg is miraculously growing out. The skeptics argue that these events rely entirely on psychological manipulation, the adrenaline of the crowd temporarily masking a person's pain, and basic sleight of hand designed to create a very profitable illusion of divine power.
Now, it's incredibly important to note that the criticism isn't just coming from secular illusionists or outside skeptics. The documentary highlights that prominent traditional Christian theologians, like John Piper, vehemently push back against the prosperity gospel as well. Piper has actually publicly condemned these teachings as an abomination. Traditional critics argue that this practice deeply distorts the original religious texts. Basically, it transforms a message of spiritual redemption and humility into a transactional, manipulative scheme meant for the leader's financial gain.
Section 5. Cultish followings. So if the theology is criticized by other pastors and the miracles are debunked by illusionists, how on earth do these megachurches maintain such massive, fiercely loyal followings? Let's unpack the psychology.
The documentary outlines an exact closed-loop psychological trap that keeps followers engaged. Step 1 begins with the leader promising wealth and health right from the stage. In Step 2, the follower, desperate for that breakthrough, gives their money, sowing the financial seed. Step 3 is the inevitable reality for the vast majority of people. The promised financial windfall or medical miracle simply fails to arrive. But the absolutely crucial mechanic of this entire system lies in Step 4. When the miracle fails, the blame is never placed on the pastor. No. Instead, it's placed entirely on the follower for having a lack of faith. It's a brilliantly manipulative system. Think about it. The leader gets the money and takes all the credit if something coincidentally good happens, but completely avoids accountability when things go wrong. That immense cognitive dissonance keeps the follower trapped in a cycle, essentially forcing them to give even more money to fix their own supposed lack of faith.
Which brings us to this staggering number, 14,936,983. That's the view count of Jomani's expose. The immense scale of this audience proves that millions of people are actively watching, analyzing, and engaging with Jomani's conclusion that systemic manipulation is hiding behind the guise of charity and faith. It really suggests a massive cultural shift where the public is increasingly demanding transparency from these multi-million-dollar empires.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to consider. Look at the massive organizations around you. Look at the underlying mechanisms of their wealth generation and ask yourself, where exactly is the line between practicing genuine personal faith and falling prey to calculated multi-million-dollar financial exploitation?
We really want to know what you think about this highly complex issue. If you found this breakdown valuable, please like this video, comment your thoughts down below, share this with a friend who needs to see it, and make sure to subscribe for more information as we keep unpacking the truth behind the world's most fascinating systems. Thanks for learning with us, and we'll catch you in the next explainer.